We never know with our high elevation. So sometimes it's not so much about your latitude as your elevation.
Mhm.
And the higher the elevation, the higher the chance you're going to frost.
You're listening to the Food Garden Life Show, the show that helps you grow food, whether it's on a balcony, in a backyard, or bigger. I'm your host, Stephen Biggs.
And I'm your host, Donna Balzer. Together we talk with gardening experts and we talk about what we've done in our years in the horticultural trade, helping you bend the rules and grow food in a way that suits you and your growing zone.
Welcome to Season 7, Episode 20. Today we're talking about Victoria Day. And for those of you here in Canada, it's Victoria Day, the May 2-4. Sometimes it's the May Long. I don't know what you call it in your part of the country, but this is for listeners outside of Canada. This is a federal statutory holiday. And it's a long weekend. We get the Monday off. So May 24th was the birthday of Queen Victoria. And that's why it's called the May 2-4. Although the funny thing is, it floats around from year to year. I think it's whatever Monday falls before May 25th. So it does change from year to year. But anyway, I don't know, Donna, about you, but for me, this is nothing about colonial fervor and celebrating the birthday of the sovereign. For me, Victoria Day is all about gardening. How about you?
Well, that's how it's evolved for sure. People got that extra day off. They said to themselves, the garden centers are full. Let's just swamp down there. But gosh, I remember in Calgary, I was working as the horticulturist at the Calgary Zoo. And wow, we planned a huge event for the May 2-4 weekend because we know everyone would have the weekend off. And they wouldn't all be gardening. And we had about 3 feet, I'm talking a meter of snow that weekend. So, it is traditionally a big gardening weekend in Canada. The weekend after is the Memorial Weekend in the US. So it's their long weekend, but it's not always the best weekend to do your gardening.
I did a lot of gardening for neighbors as a kid. That's how I made some pocket money. So I know that in and around that May 2-4, there would be lots of people who wanted their gardens planted, like everything done, all the raking, all the bed prep, all the annuals in, everything right on that weekend. So it was always busy for me.
And the garden centers, of course, are insane then because people have that feeling you do have to do it all. I know my husband was golfing with friends. He is not a gardener at all. And he was out golfing. And, this was after we moved to Vancouver Island, which is the tropics of Canada, really. It's the warmest part
Mhm.
of Canada. And he came home after that golf game and he said, "Gee, guess what, Donna?" And I said, "What?" He said, "May 24th is the weekend we should do all our planting." And I said, "Oh, gee whiz." Didn't you notice we're already eating strawberries from the garden? Didn't you notice I've already done a lot of work in transplanting? So, really, it's a date that a lot of people look forward to, but I don't want people to be restricted by that date. It's not the only date for gardening. In fact, I've got things in the ground already and we're expecting snow this weekend. So,
Yeah, it's like a guidepost is the way I think of it. But we should mention too, in our book, No Guff Vegetable Gardening, we had fun with this idea of guff and guff for people who don't use that word, sort of nonsense or silly advice. And one of the things we talked about in there was this notion that everything has to happen on this May 2-4 weekend. So let's direct this now to our passion and our focus, which is food gardening. What can we tell people about food gardening and that May 2-4? What can people think about?
well, they know the soil's getting warm by then, right? In most cases, even if you're getting late snowfalls or you're getting problems with that, the soil's warming up, the lawns are usually greening up by then. So the soil warming and the lawns greening means you've got some activity happening in the soil. You've probably got some biological programming. You've got things giving off nitrogen. So things are starting to grow. I think that's good. And there's a lot of plants that are hardy that can be growing quite successfully before the May 2-4 long weekend. So I think the common advice I would give is don't wait if you've got a pocket, say a container or a little warm spot or a little sunny area, think about getting started before the May 24. We're leading up to that now. So you can, anything you haven't done, you can start to think about doing, but you don't have to do it all on that one weekend. What do
Yeah.
you say about the May 24?
I should say too that so here I am in Toronto, and when May 24 comes around, hopefully I won't be getting any more frost by then. So we should have crossed that threshold, but that won't be the case for all gardeners in colder zones. What about you when the May 24 rolls around? Are you past that threshold? Are you frost free? Can you put in your tomatoes?
We not usually. No, we never know with our high elevation. So sometimes it's not so much about your latitude as your elevation.
Mhm.
And the higher the elevation, probably the higher the chance you're going to frost. So I always remember the year on June 8th when I got -8 and it killed all of my tomatoes inside my greenhouse because I didn't even think to turn my heaters on. I'd put them all away. So we can never really be sure, but keeping your extra tools on hand, things like your Remay and your Agribon, fabric row covers that you can put on things in a hurry, keeping your heaters out, maybe not plugged in, but ready to go if you've got a greenhouse. These things will help. So it's not a guarantee for sure. In Calgary, where I live, we're at the same elevation as Banff, and most people can visualize Banff. It's
Mm.
quite high. And the higher you are, the closer you are to, the atmosphere, the cold.
That's a great thing to think about is the elevation.
Mhm.
Coming up, more about what to plant and when. We'll be back in just a second. A shout out today to Christophe in France. And Christophe is a fellow cold climate fig grower. Thanks for connecting and tuning in. And we have some new content at foodgardenlife.com, a new piece about direct sowing seeds in your vegetable garden, also a new piece about potting soil for fig trees at foodgardenlife.com.
You're listening to the Food Garden Life Show.
The show that helps you grow food, whether it's on a balcony, in a backyard, or bigger.
And now back to our chat about spring seeding and the Victoria Day long weekend.
As I'm thinking about the May 24 and what a new gardener, I could say to a new gardener is that here in Southern Ontario, before the May 24, you can do so much. You can plant those seeds that you direct sow in the garden, your carrots and your lettuce and your arugula, all that can be in by the May 24. And you can, a lot of people here, it is common to put in your tomato plants in and around the May 24, but I know gardeners in my area in Toronto who do that sooner, and they're just ready to protect those tomato plants if they need to. But on the other hand, I know people who don't even rush to put in the tomatoes on the May 24 because they might wait an extra week or two just to be super safe. So none of this is cast in stone. I think the big thing is to understand the conditions in your yard, know when your average last frost date is for your area. Remember, there's a whole bunch of things that we can direct seed outdoors before that May 24 and enjoy the May 24. Whatever you do, don't go to the garden center on the May 24. It's too stressful. You should be at home having a beer on your patio, enjoying the garden with family and friends.
Exactly. I once seen as well, my daughter-in-law texted me full-on pictures in late April that were plants in full bloom in the greenhouse. And she said, "Can I put my plants in now?" Because she saw them in the greenhouse in late April. And I said, "You can buy them now, but please don't put them in yet." And so the greenhouses, it's in their best interest to sell plants early, to keep selling them. People are worried they're going to run out. Don't worry. Like you say, don't go shopping on that May 2 for a weekend, don't worry. There will be more coming. There other greenhouses, feeder greenhouses are shipping to these big retail places. And so there will be more coming. And sometimes you get better stock if it's later because some of those are kind of overgrown. Like anything that's in bloom in late April is not going to be perfect. It's going to be all root bound and all tight in that little containers. So in fact, you're right. If you can wait, put the early things in. And of course, by early, we're talking about, radishes and carrots. Oh, help me out here, Steve. Lettuce, and Swiss chard, all of these
Yep.
things, right?
Leafy greens and cabbage family. Your
Mhm.
onion sets can all be in now. I've transplanted my leeks and my onion seedlings into the garden. And by the way, as we record this, it's the 29th of April, so we're recording a bit ahead of time. But yeah, back to what you were saying, Donna, about buying things right now might not give you the best chance of success. Just yesterday, a neighbor was telling me about a tomato plant she just bought that already has little tomatoes on it. And here we
Right.
are, April 29th. So it's got a long way to go before it can go in the garden. And I think honestly, you're better off not to get something so big so soon, because sometimes what happens when these things sit in the pot, it's actually stressful. They get root bound and they don't always recover. Sometimes they do, but not always.
And they dry out faster too.
Yeah.
Yeah, not nice. Hmm.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's pretty much the main message I wanted to leave people with about the May 2 for is enjoy it. Definitely do some gardening, but to me, this notion of everything going in on the May 2 for isn't what I'd share with people. I'd say you can have lots done by the May 2 for and think about after the May 2 for. Think about all of these succession crops that you can start putting in. So,
I wanted to identify some of those warm crops before we go because there are
mhm.
things I definitely don't put in. Tomatoes are the questionable one. If I have a way to cover them, I will put them in early just to get the roots developing. And of course, you can buy things like the cozy covers and things, keep them warm, or just put some lightweight, floating roll cover on them. But things that have to come later, things as we speak now in late April, things I'm starting to plant in later May, after the May 2 pour, early June. For instance, I've got my zucchinis ready to go. I'm going to seed those today, but indoors under my grow lights. I'm going to seed. I've got my watermelons just started. I'm going to start all my winter squash. So, all of those warm things, I'm going to start. I'm not going to plant them for about a month. I don't want people to go rushing to the garden centers to buy those. Oh my gosh, I've seen things that are like zucchinis that are already way outgrown their little pots. They're a foot or more long, and it's just
Yeah.
gonna die. So take a deep breath. If you need to go shopping for the May 2 for, buy seeds. But even before that, just get out and get some things started, but don't plan to plant everything on that same time. Remember, plants are like people. They're completely different. Some will tolerate cold a bit better. Some need a little bit of protection. So just dig in and relax and enjoy your long weekend and have fun. And mostly, maybe clean up and prepare your beds for planting and just do the early things.
Good. I think that's nice advice to finish on. So thank you, Donna. We'll see you next week.
All right, Steve, talk to you soon.
We'd love it if you drop by to say hi online at foodgardenlife.com. We have articles about growing fruit, veg, using your homegrown produce, also about growing figs and lemons in cold climates. So say hi. Tell us the topics that would help you grow more of your own. While you're at foodgardenlife.com, also grab our free newsletter. Subscribers get the subscriber-only cold climate fig guide and small space food gardening tip sheet.
You can head over to my website and grab my really cool printable PDF for a seed packet. You can personalize it for each type of seeds that you save. DonnaBalzer.com. Have a look.
You're listening to the Food Garden Life Show. I'm Stephen Biggs.
And I'm Donna Balzer, here to help you grow.